second for it to actually start.
Oh, it's weird too because there's a delay as I'm talking and what's on the screen.
Is there?
I I see a delay, but I don't know. Maybe that's just the I don't know. Maybe it's my internet. Hopefully, you're not hearing it too bad off.
I don't see a delay at all, man. Not at all. So you're good on this end.
All right.
Well, you're technically live.
Okay.
Yeah, technically live. So
Technically
eventually we'll have viewers.
Okay.
So do you prefer Andy or Andrew Cullen?
I go by Andy.
Andy?
When I set this account up, I put Andrew on there, and it's funny because all my emails and business cards, I'll say Andrew on it as well. But I usually tell if people know who I am by if they call me Andy or not.
Okay.
Usually Andrew means I'm being yelled at.
Oh, I should call you Andrew. That's going to be fun. All right, so we're talking about the front of the book. I should probably pull up the front of the book if we're going to talk about this.
That'd be helpful, sure.
Yeah. At least for me to reference. Everybody else can get their book. That's how we should start out Sunday Fun Day. Like, everybody open your books to page 7.
We're starting on page 19.
I'll just open it up to the flyleaf here, and then we can skip around. All right, cool. So, Andy,
Yes.
what's so interesting about the front of this book?
Well, so I know there's been discussions for a long time about front of the book, back of the book. How much do those things matter relevant to the puzzles? I mean, I think when you see the instructions in there, they say match verse to painting, and everyone focusing on the middle of the book. And people have put a lot of theories out there talking about the front of the book. I've heard some about the end of the book, and I personally haven't found anything that I would say I've locked on that back of the book is a firm thing. I'm kind of curious about some of the edits that Byron made in there, but I really think because he wrote the front of the book, there's a higher probability that he may have put some clues up in the front of the book. So for me, I start off. I don't own any the first edition copies. I have the crappy online version or the cheap version,
print on demand
remake one, but I appreciate the why am I in a loop?
I don't know, but it's great.
Oh, it is a really great loop. Holy shit. Is my voice in a loop or just the video?
No, just the video. I think your video just froze.
That's wonderful. Let me try a different camera, maybe.
Try turning it off and on again. There you go. Oh my god, it's me like 100 times now. That's awesome.
Okay. Let's try this one.
Yes. Now there we go. Awesome.
Right, that's my computer camera. Can you still hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we can still hear you.
All right. So I won't hold the book up again because apparently that causes a glitch.
Yeah. It's just horrible quality. So just before you start, I don't know if I've ever definitively stated my position on this. So just so you know how this conversation is going to go, when you're starting out, one of the most important things about this book to me is the front of this book. Like those pages full of text contain invaluable information. If you're not like hunters now are sort of jumping into the end of the puzzle that we already have all this stuff figured out. But if we didn't have all this stuff figured out, the front of this book would be invaluable. Like it's crazy how much information the front of this book gives you.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Now, I will tell you, I think one of your the podcasts you had a couple weeks ago, you had someone on who talked about going through the stages of kind of like the stage of denial or the stage of grief or the stage of the secret, I think I've lived through those stages. I think when I first came in, I was very heavily interested in using Google and using, Google Earth and a lot of those other features and trying to find, overhead aerials and all that. I've switched pretty much to world book encyclopedias, dictionaries. In fact, I use the dictionary quite a bit. When I think about what tools Byron may have used back in the days, like I'm thinking riddles and word puzzles, puns. I'm sorry, I'm trying to figure out where my camera's at here. Puns and stuff like that. So I look for old books out there that have those things in there because I think wordplay is a big part of, in my opinion, I think that's part of this puzzle. So starting off the front of the book, the very first, I won't say the very first page because I know that's the whole welcome. We've been expecting you piece. I do think there's some clues that are on that, but I want to go to the fence page. So I've been thinking about the fence, and I've seen people post some ideas about perhaps there are some overhead map type features in there, and I've seen some people put some ideas about matching the three things like the baseball diamond in there and parts of the Greek cultural gardens and how they're kind of hidden in the twists and turns of the fence. But I think there might be, me personally, I think there might be something more literal in there. If you think about what's the purpose of a fence?
It's a boundary.
It's a boundary to keep you on a path and guide you someplace.
I mean, that's one of the, yeah, okay.
Right. So what if the fence is intended to represent following a path, and where the fence leads to on this painting is this rectangular box that's decorated with a treasure in the middle. So what if it's a fence is a literal path to the casque, is what that picture could be telling us. Now, on top of the fence, we have musical notes. And a note, if you look at the word note, the word note is something that helps you remember something. You
okay?
Kind of see where I'm going with that?
Yeah, but we're getting a little stretchy right off the bat. Like the musical notes, all right. Fences as paths, okay. I get what you're saying.
Fence as a path is stretchy?
Huh?
Fence as a path is stretchy, you think?
Yeah, not all paths have fences. When I think of fence, one of the last things I think of is a path. It's just a boundary, like it mainly used to keep people in or out of something.
Okay.
You know? Like I don't know too many paths that are fenced. Generally,
well, I'm thinking a sidewalk. I'm thinking if you're on a sidewalk, that's where you might find a fence that leads you down a path.
Well, if you're on a sidewalk, the fence is generally to keep you out of what's ever on the other side of that sidewalk. The fence is the path. I mean, the fence is the path. The sidewalk is the path. The fence is like, don't go over there.
The fence is the bound.
Yeah.
The border that keeps you from going.
I see what you're saying, though.
Right.
I can follow you.
All right. Well, so that's again, and I'll be honest, my mind is rather stretchy. I like the idea of wordplay and riddles.
And that's fine. Like, how boring would it be if everybody just agreed? Like it takes that sort of out of the box thinking to come up with any kind of answers.
By the way, I was prepared in case we do have any issues of agreeing, and I do have my.
You have your. I cannot answer that. Oh, what does it say? I can't. It's washed out. I disagree.
Yeah, it says I disagree.
Nice.
I can't get to line up. Oh, there. I got to have it over here.
Nice.
I have my I disagree sign ready.
I don't know where I got John's I cannot answer that question sign around here somewhere. I should have him sign that thing and then auction it off.
So you see that as a little bit stretchy, but let's go a little further on it. So
okay,
if you look at the fence, the fence I see as it being a path, and there's basically aside from notes, there's two key elements that are on there. You have your elements that are straightforward, your straight links and all that are on there that go up and down and across, and then you have your twists and turns. Man, I'm in a loop again, aren't I?
Yep. I was looking at the fence.
Looks like I'm having an auction. Oh my Lord.
I love it. This is going to be a fun stream.
Yes, it will be. Anyways, maybe I should turn my video off. If it does that again, I'll try turning it off and on again since that seemed to work last time.
Yeah, I don't think I can just turn off your video. Oh, yep, it worked for a second, like a split second. There you go.
Yeah, so I turned it off and on again, so we'll see if that works. All right, so so twists and turns. So I kind of read these as being, you have notes or clues that are straightforward, and you have notes and clues that are a little bit more skewed and interconnected, that both lead you down a path to the casque. And if you look at the way it's drawn up in the painting, you have some that lead to dead ends. You have some that interconnect into other parts of other clues, but all of them leading you to the same area is the way I interpret what the fence might mean. And then when you get to the casque, you of course have the shovel, which means to dig, to look for to dig into for the casque. But you've got this guy sitting up there who, I was thinking about what the guy might be, and what eventually I came across with. I was looking the word fence up in the dictionary, and I saw the word fence sitter. And a fence sitter is someone who sits on both sides of an issue, who is undecided, doesn't really want to pick a side. And I'm thinking, as you read the front of the book, you've got this discussion of finding a balance between man and nature. And I'm wondering if there's some sort of play here with the fence sitter at finding a balance between some sort of dichotomy or some sort of issue that exists at the casque location or in the puzzle itself. Is that?
Well, to be fair, he's not sitting on a fence.
He's sitting.
He's not even
sitting. He's sitting on a casque.
He's sitting on a plinth. But
okay.
But so here, and the reason I point that out is to ask this question. I think everyone sort of agrees that not everything can be a clue, right? And
Sure.
When John points out the clues that he puts in things, they're very direct. And I can use one of his exact quotes on this page. Like, we know that there is a confirmed clue on this page, just like we know in Boston, where he's like, everybody's looking so deep into this, but it says Boston right here. And that it's the same on this page. It just says Boston in the dude's hair, and that's
Right.
the confirmed clue we have. So I'm wondering, since not everything can be a clue, like there has to be some art. There has to be, there has to be art to hide the clues in. Why are we like, what? How do you specifically know what is just art and what is a clue? Like, for me, I see a fence with filigree in John's style. I don't see the musical notes. I don't see the filigree as telling any sort of artistic story at all. I mean, I don't know. So how do you differentiate between what's just art and what's not? Like, why is all of what you just described a clue, but the little vase structures on side of the plinth, they're not a clue for some? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I understand that. And again, I'm not saying that the face piece. I'm not saying there aren't things on there that there could be clues that I'm missing altogether, and I will 100% agree. I could be interpreting this, all the wrong way as well. I think everything I've ever talked about, I always call it theory, because I don't believe any of this stuff is considered a solution until it's actually been confirmed by somebody, or it's been linked back to something, or you.
Now you're just gone. No audio, no video, no nothing. It's just me. It's a great shot, though. Oh, Zoom. Zoom, why must you be this way? I think, in my opinion, since I'm just talking to nobody now, because we got to fix Andrew's video and audio. It's hard, like, to answer my own question. Like, it's hard to do, right? Because all the clues are subjective, so all the art is also subjective. So how do you pick? How do you pick? And I think, can you invite others on? Yeah, but I can send you. I mean, I can really only send it on Facebook. So if you send me a message on Facebook or send me an email or something with your email address. I can email you a link. I'd like to see what Andrew's going to do though, like if he's coming back. But yeah, send me an email or a message or something, and I'll send you the link. So like, how do you tell? But for me, it's like it's consensus, right? Like if you should, I think, just like where it spells out Boston or the home plate in Boston or things like that, you should be able to show it to a bunch of people, and at least a majority of them are going to agree, right? Like but we've seen so many theories on this fence, but and it's mostly stuff that's completely different from what Andrew's saying. Like it's mostly people just trying to find words in the fence.
Are you able to hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I'm not going to turn my video on because apparently that's what's causing issues.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
There was somebody else that wanted to come talk too. If you want to invite, sure. I don't know if it's a guy or a girl. Their name is Tolkien Studies. So apparently they're a very big Lord of the Rings fan and a teacher.
Maybe.
I don't know.
So you asked about how I kind of got to that interpretation of the fence.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. There were other things that led me in that direction. And some of that starts coming up in the actual front of the book. So if we go on to the next page, if you go into the Tale Simply Told, I look at the title of Tale Simply Told, and to me, I read that as basically saying a summary. And I think if you think about how a story or something that's being written out is written, a lot of times you start off with either a summary at the beginning of it or a summary at the end of, either you tell people about what you're going to talk about, or you give them a summary of what you just talked about. Does that make sense? Because I mean, that's basically what a Tale Simply Told means, is a summary.
Or, okay, yeah, all right.
Okay, so if you read the chapter basically is a preamble, if you will, or a summary of what the rest of the book is going to talk about. It gives you kind of the place and the time of when everything's taking place, and then it kind of ends with talking about looking for a treasure is basically the essence of the book and what you're gonna see in this book. But two paragraphs I want to kind of focus on. The first is paragraph 2. So we've got on here, it says, man made his abode civilization. So abode, we know, means a home. So he made his home civilization, and it says he was an inquisitive creature, and his names were things he could possess. And so I read this as talking about words, that man found value in words, and he saw words as things that he could change and he could possess. He said he could not fly, like fairies. So it goes to cover things, and it says, so man often found strength in words. I mean, that's the exact final line that's in that paragraph. If we look at the next one on here, the fair people had no cities or towns or homes. Their home was nature. They could play in it, they could hide, they could make themselves unseen. And so to me, here it's talking about things you see or don't see. And so I think you are talking about sights. So you have a paragraph talking about man and words, and you have a paragraph talking about nature and things that are seen in sights. So I think there's place here at the concept of verses and paintings in words and pictures. Does that track?
Yeah, I'm following.
Okay. So I think there's wordplay that he's trying to introduce in these two paragraphs, talking about understanding what a verse and what words are and how that relates to man. And he's talking about sights, both something you see as well as a place, which is an S-I-T-E, site, as being land. And I think this carries throughout the whole front of the book, actually. So when you get further down the bottom of the page, it talks about how once swam a river maiden, a water wheel spun. And so it goes from being something natural into something that's man-made. Where once was a forest, now lumber. So something natural to man-made. So I think there's
that's the point of the book.
Okay. So
I mean, it's the point of the book that man came and destroyed nature and conquered it. And
well, I mean, they found balance. They found balance with nature. In the end, the fair folk wound up finding balance in nature with man. Okay. They found a way to make his world with his words fit with their sites and their land.
Okay.
Which goes to matching up verses and paintings. So more on wordplay. If you look at the next three sections, just the titles. So first off, the next three sections: the passage of the New World, Litany of the Jewels, and
the Vanishing.
Was it the Vanishing? Those pages total exactly 24 pages. They start and end with a poem, and both poems are exactly the same in that they end with the same rhyme words on both of them. Have you ever noticed that before?
I'm sorry, they end with the same. I was reading comments. They end with the same line words.
Rhymes. So if you look at the Passage to the New World, the very first poem that's on there, "The Northern Seas Are Cold and Gray."
So it rhymes with
those 8 lines. They end with gray, folk, warm, and joke. And if you look at the Vanishing, the first 4 lines there are fey, spoke, form, and smoke. So they all have the same rhyme sequence, and the same thing in the last 4 lines: day, fan, storm, and man. Away began, swarm, and can.
Yeah.
And I think that is showing that there is symmetry in these 24 pages. And if you think about 24 may also fit with 24 hours in a day, but there's symmetry in how this both starts and ends with that 8-line stanza that has the same rhyming scheme, almost like the paintings have the bookends on them. And then if you go to the very center of those 24 pages, you're on the Litany of the Jewels. In fact, the Litany of the Jewels is on the 12th and 13th page of those 24 pages. But if you look at the litany, it's not balanced. It's divided unevenly. Thoughts?
Well, I mean, you skipped over like the thing that I wish more people talked about, which is the most important thing about those two, in my opinion. Brandon Young has joined us. He's the Tolkien.
Okay.
Yeah. Which I didn't know. I always thought I was every time I saw that name pop up in on YouTube, Tolkien study, I always thought I was talking to some like older lady teacher, but apparently no, it's Brandon Young.
Oh, hey guys.
So the most interesting thing to me about those two paintings are, if you take each one by themselves, number one, they don't rhyme, they're not poems, and number two, they don't make any sense. You know, they don't make any sense at all as standalone poems. In structure and rhyme and context, or content rather, nothing. But when you combine them, they become a poem, and suddenly they make sense.
Yeah. In syntax.
Do they not?
Yeah,
have
in syntax.
Poetic prose to them?
Huh?
Do they not have poetic prose? I mean, if you look at it, it's A, B, C, B, A.
It's almost like
D,
a hexameter.
C,
yeah.
What's that?
It's almost like a hexameter where the epic poems of old, like Homer and the Iliad, are set up forth. I can see that, but it doesn't completely align, I will say.
You're talking about when you combine them?
Yeah, every single the litany and the fair folk and the front and the back part of the book.
Pete is asking which poems are these. Go to 12 Treasures, the American book, and look on the page for page 9. It's the front page of the Passage to the New World, and it has like a little thing.
Yeah.
Oh,
12
got it.
Treasures, the best, absolutely the best resource.
Thank you.
I've been teaching this in my high school, middle school, and kids love it. I mean, students. I have to say, students love this. They want to figure it out. They think they have the answer the next day, and right, they're like, "Oh, I saw an eagle in New York. It looked like the Chrysler Building. I know exactly where it is." And it's like, well, think about it a little bit more. So it's a great educational tool, and I'm all here for it. And I thank you, George, and I thank you guys, everybody here, for the wonderful community.
I didn't do it. It's everybody else's.
Yeah, right.
Everybody else did it.
George gets no credit at all.
Andrew, are you the one? Are you the one sharing your screen?
Yeah. So the one up top is the poem I'm talking about from Passage to the New World. The vanishing down here at the bottom. As you can kind of see, I color highlighted the words that rhyme. Gray day, fade away.
Yeah, but they're not. They're not in a poetic pattern. Like gray, and then 6 lines away, or 5 lines away is gray, or day rather.
Well, yeah, not every poems are roses or red, violets or blue, though.
Not all of them, but it's coincidental when you take 2 that aren't and they become one that is.
Aren't some of the spots in rhyme?
I mean, kinda.
Feel that?
Some of the poems kind of rhyme.
They do rhyme, right? So
a little bit, yeah.
Do that, I think. Go on.
So the other thing I want to point out is the Litany of the Jewels. It begins and ends with pretty much the same lines, except one is a question and one is a statement.
Right.
Have you ever noticed that?
A declarative, yeah.
You're talking about the
I did not do well in English. I did good at math.
Yeah.
Brandon, what is it you teach so we know what we have to be careful with?
Oh God, everything.
Shit.
Oh yeah, no, watch out. I teach paranormal psychology at the University of Miskatonic.
That's the thing. Okay.
Yeah,
we're about to kick you off of this stream, Brandon.
Oh, good Lord.
I was gonna wear my Ghostbusters shirt and I switched it out for my Goonies one.
No, I do teach. I don't want to say where, guys. But
no, that's fine. But do you teach like English or art or?
Yeah, English.
Oh, wait,
yeah.
Oh, great, awesome. This is gonna suck for me.
So I went to college for electrical engineering, so I don't English as well, but math's okay.
I graduated high school. Yay!
Yeah, I didn't like math so much, but that's okay.
So,
all right.
So George, the thing I want to point out also on here, I started talking about the titles real quick. So I mentioned verse and sites and wordplay.
Yeah.
The very first chapter, or the first chapter in these 3 sections is called the Passage to the New World, and passage is it's a synonym for verse. And you have Litany of Jewels. Litany is also a synonym for verse.
Right.
And then you've got vanishing, which is it's obviously connected with sight. And then jewels, this is one I already went to the dictionary on, but if you go to a precious site or location, it is considered a jewel. So I think these chapters here are titled after more wordplay associated with verse and sites. Again, site both as a visible site and as a locational site.
Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, go on, please.
Yeah, please.
Okay. All right. So I already kind of talked about verse. I won't go into those things. If you look at the actual pictures in the section called the passage, so the word verse actually comes from meaning to turn,
Yep.
or to move. And if you look at the pictures in the passage to the New World, unlike the other chapters in this section, they're all different on every page. And every single one of them is something that shows movement. You also see the werewolf in it. You see a butterfly, which would have metamorphosed into something. So I think the passage to the New World is talking about movement and change. The other thing that I saw in here that I didn't catch right away was in like the first or second page, it talks about the first two people to move to America. Actually, I got the book open here. Brandon and Alf, and it makes a statement. Even legends, it seems, look down on legends, and the first legends is capitalized. The second one is not.
Right.
And it made me think about the fact that we have a map with a key on it, which is also called a legend.
Right.
And again, I think that is maybe playing at understanding that there is a key can also be called a legend.
Okay.
Amazing. Yeah, I love it.
If you go to the vanishing on here, all of the paint pictures on here are the same on every 2 page. They're identical, and everything that you're looking at on here is kind of people who are hidden a little bit. There's a guy who's shooting a bow and arrow, and he's sighting in on a target. You have all the eyes kind of hidden off in the woods. You have those shoes with an eagle on it, which is a symbol. And then if you look at the feathers that are on the various tribe folk there, feathers are also used as signs and symbols. And so, again, as I kind of said, the vanishing, I think, is more speaking towards sights and things that are visible. I think the imagery here fits that motif of saying, these are sights, these are things that don't change. And when I think about sights as an S-I-T-E, I think about like a lat long. A lat long doesn't change. It's a permanent fixed place. Whereas verse tied to man are things that do change. And then in the middle, you've got the Litany of the Jewels. And Litany of the Jewels has the same image across all 3 pages. And again, as I said before, I found it interesting that page 20 and page 21 are the middle of the section. They are page 12 and 13 relative to 24. And then you see that there is, even though there's synergy in this being in the middle of those 24 pages, they are not even on these 2 pages. And I think that plays another part in the puzzle on finding things that are equal yet unequal, which I refer to as being a dichotomous relationship that may be seen at the sites. The other thing, I don't know if this means anything, but I noticed that the page numbers here, 19, 20, and 21, add up to 60, which I found interesting as in 60 seconds in a minute, but that could just be coincidence. But here again, kind of reinforcing that a site, being planted in one place, you see this foot that's sitting, you got a lot of twisting and turning things here. And then here you have her pointing to this gem, which I think of as like a turning point. Again, I think this picture here may finally connect together of how do you connect a verse, something that moves or changes, to a site, something that doesn't change or move and is a location. Does that make sense on like what I'm seeing from a logical standpoint?
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely. Yeah.
It makes sense. It's just like, it's hard to comment on when you don't know where you're going with all of this. Does that make sense? Like it's very
Yeah.
deep but it's fragmented. Um, yeah.
Well, that's honestly been one of my most difficult things here is seeing an idea and interpreting an idea is one thing. Byron never wrote these books with the intent of people having to explain the ideas, to other people. And it's fine if people don't get, your ideas, because I know I've posted some other ones out there that I kind of wish in hindsight that, I know they were kind of dumb, but I think that's part of the evolution of this puzzle is share ideas, get feedback on those, and then if it makes sense to you, keep following it. If it doesn't, throw it away and move on to something else and
Yeah.
follow other paths. But
No, I think it's wonderful actually. And I love how there's like you say, the consistency in the litany at the end there with the images at the bottom, and yet you're looking for patterns in the overall structure of the book, of the puzzle, or I hate to say puzzle, but whatever. And I think you've got a lot to offer, and I think this is, don't be discouraged by people saying you don't have the answer 100%. I think, we need people like you to see the overarching theme.
Yeah, I mean, your path is your path. I think the big things that we're jumping over with the front part of the book are like just within the text. Just if you read the text, you get the vast majority of the history based around the accepted cities. I mean, you get all of the fair folk, all of the different fair folk for each of the cities are represented in the drawings that you posted earlier. Like there's a lot of just in your face stuff in the front of the book that directly
yeah,
connects with the puzzle,
Yeah.
which is honestly what I thought we were going to be talking about today.
Well, and I'll tell you what, George, that actually goes back to what I was saying before. I think going back on the fence idea, I think there are things that are straightforward, and I think there are things that are not as straightforward that lead you down a path to the casque. And that's kind of what I was going at is I think you're right. The front of the book absolutely has things that are in your face that, you can't deny when you read Litany of the Jewels, that those things are telling you how you connect a gem, therefore a month, therefore a painting, to an origin. I mean, that's very clear that that's what this section here does. It's clear that Passage to the New World allows you to connect a type of fair folk to an origin, right?
Yeah.
I mean, those are clear things. I don't disagree on that at all. I'm just saying, I think that you can just see the things that are in your face, or maybe there's more to the things.
No, I agree.
Me,
It's just the deeper you go, the more difficult it is to figure out where to stop. You know, because you can make
trust
you
me,
can
I've been
make
down
you can
lots of
make
rabbit
a
holes. Yep.
yeah you can make a connection out of anything. So it's like where do you stop? But yeah, and like I was saying before, it's hard to just sort of jump in to an idea like this that's sort of encompassing and just
Yeah.
understand it along the way. You kind of got to know the whole of what you're talking
I do
about.
think
Sorry.
sorry. But about the clocks, I don't think too much attention has been put on the clocks and the idea that clocks are involved in, George, correct me if I'm wrong, almost every painting.
Half of them.
No, I think there's only
Half.
clocks in 5 of them.
Yeah, it's half
Oh,
of the paintings.
is it? Okay,
Yeah.
well, still, it's like, well, you have New Orleans, right? I don't know. I think there might be something interesting there. Like our guest mentioned, 60 seconds in a minute,
Yeah.
you know, and maybe that has a precise, because I think the dig spots, in my opinion, are super precise. and not really made up to sort of speculation.
That's a hard argument to make, considering we know exactly where 3 of them were buried, but have no
Yeah.
clue how to get to that
Oh,
exact spot on any of them.
well, but we know where Cleveland was buried, right?
Yeah.
It was in the exact spot where would you jump up and dig there.
Except backwards, and we don't know why.
Right. Okay. And then feel at home.
We know exactly where that one was buried, but not was it
Exactly.
under home base, in front of home base, to the side of home base? We have no idea why.
Feel
We
at
have no
home.
idea where.
Feel at home plate.
Yeah.
And so you have 2, and then you have fence and fixture. I mean, yeah, I don't know about that one, but there is a precise. I think there is a precision to this. Like it's
It,
not far off.
it's possible.
Possible.
Relating to your question, there's two things that I wanted to get out real quick. Because somebody asked where I found out, or where I figured out about the putting the 2 poems together, and I did not. A long time ago, I had a phone call with a searcher who pointed that out, and then somebody started talking about it on Facebook, and that's when I was like, all right, we'll put this on 12 Treasures. So that 100% wholly was not me. It was somebody else clued me into that. And the second, somebody was talking about Discord, or talking on Discord the other day about clocks, and like what the purpose of putting a clock on each of the cask lids was. Like, why would you even need that? If you told Byron, I found Chicago, and you told him where, you wouldn't need to tell him, the time on the clock, you know?
Exactly.
So
Well,
it's
yeah.
possible what you're saying. The clocks do hold more of a significance than we're
And
given it, but
right.
So George, that actually brought up an interesting thought regarding the story that John shared with you guys, the meetup, or maybe it came up before then. He was talking about how when they went out to go find the place to bury the cask, that Byron really hadn't scoped any of the area out before and didn't really he didn't have a site in mind, right?
yeah, he had no
Did
idea
John
they were
say
going.
whether he did John say that he knew what which origin he was going for?
No, no. In fact, I
Because
don't know. I don't know if there were origins at that point, or if they were still on the 12 tribes of Israel thing. Well, I guess they had to be on some sort of origin, because he took him to the to the cultural gardens, because Byron could just pick whatever he wanted at that point. So I think so.
okay.
That's what he said in the interview. So
So here's the
John
interesting
didn't
thing.
know.
So he already had the 3 painted on that cask lid, right? So he would have already known that it was March when
Yeah,
he buried it. So whether or not he had March tied to Greece already, maybe that wasn't the case yet, but he knew it was March.
yeah.
Unless he had multiple lids, or if he painted the hands on last minute, maybe that was something he might have done. But
No, I mean Joe Ellen did all of the paintings, so yeah, he would have had to have the month set already. He just,
Draw
I
the
guess,
cat.
hadn't tied it to a immigration group yet.
okay,
She didn't do the
so
paint.
so so Brandon, you mentioned the importance of clocks.
Yep.
And I think actually when we start off with the paintings, I think that's actually for me the first place that you really start with putting this puzzle together is once you have identified the month
Uh-huh.
via either the flower or the gem. You can use the gem to obviously connect it to an origin, right, based off of litany of the jewels. But from the month, there's some interesting things. I don't know if people have really put much thought into, but the months all have kind of an interesting histories behind them, and where those things come from. And actually, I might pop my. I don't want to risk my camera, but if you ever
Hey,
looked at the
Julie.
world books, the ones that have the riddle rebus in it,
Yeah,
there is a 2-page entry for every month that's in there. And if you look at the 2-page entry, I don't know if I've got, I'm going to go pull one up. Hold on a second here. If you look at the 2-page entries, they actually have pictures. Not what I wanted. Sorry, it's going to take me a second pulling these up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the clocks are in San Francisco for sure.
There's 5 of them.
New Orleans. Okay. New Orleans.
Charleston, New York.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
So there are like there and like you said, like they are on the casks themselves. There is a sort of now I don't know, George, you can tell me or you guys can tell me. Has every cast, the 3 that have been found, are they on different hours?
From each other? Yeah, they match the paintings, the number assigned, the month. They match the month.
What do you mean?
We assume.
We assume because we only have parts of 2 of
So
them.
Chicago was hour number what?
5.
Okay. Boston was hour number what?
8.
Oh god, was it 8?
Really?
8. Yeah, August.
Okay. And Cleveland was what?
3. I mean 4. Sorry.
Okay.
3.
So
He's right.
It was 3. It was 3.
Yeah. There's something there. There's something there. I think JJP was trying to give us a hint with that as well.
Well, he didn't know those.
No,
I mean,
of course. But
well, he knew which.
He would have known
which month.
Yeah.
Yeah, I own all your rights, by the way. I just want to let you know, George, I'm sorry to let you know about this, but
you own all of my rights?
Yes. Unfortunately, the rights revert to the person who bought them. So,
okay.
I'm joking. That's a joke, inside joke for everybody.
Oh, from the meetup, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you were at the meetup. You're the one that said you owned all the rights.
There.
No. That was Alan.
Oh.
That was Anagram
okay.
guy.
Sure.
So George, this is what I was pulling up real quick. In all the world books, there is a two-page insert that goes through each of the months, and it tells you a little bit about where the month got its name. It tells you about things that occur within the month, special days, holidays. It tells you about the symbols. So you got in here, what the birthstones are, the birth flowers are. It even has on there key important events. Now, I don't know if I put a lot of faith into the important events mattering on here because if you go edition to edition of world books, you might find different dates they have in there. Although probably key ones are probably going to be on there from those. But the thing that I kind of focused in on these was for all these months, it talks about where they got their names. And the month of March, for example, for Cleveland, came from the god of war. And I know John mentioned a couple of times that he had in there what was the Cleveland War Memorial, was on there. A lot of folks are like, why, it doesn't look like that. It looks like something that comes from the Italian site or one of the other sites there. But if you think about the word March, not the month March, but the word March means to step in columns. In fact, in military, you're usually in parallel columns that you're moving in. They're equal columns, equal steps that someone is marching in. And a march typically leads off to war and ends in ruins. Does that make sense? The word march?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So the word Greece, Grece, means a flight of steps.
Okay.
So if flight can mean both to fly as well as stairs, as well as a movement, as in when the Israelites took a flight into the desert.
Well, that doesn't make any sense. They fled.
Or a giant or whatever it is. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
The word flight means to move.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
I got you.
A flight of steps is a march.
Yep.
Okay.
So Greece,
yeah.
Grece, means march.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So let's talk about May. The word May, M-A-Y, means to allow something. The treasure for the May puzzle was found in Grant Park. The word grant means to allow something.
Okay.
So I really think that there is more to wordplay that connects these locations together. If you go then to the August one, I'll be honest, I got held up on it a little bit. So the name August comes from Augustus Caesar.
Caesar, yeah.
Caesar's known for a couple different things. So if you look at the chart I have up there, both July and August are named for Julius Caesar and Augustus Caesar. Augustus was actually more successful than Julius was in that he had, after he came back from war, he became the first emperor of Rome.
Oh, really?
And Julius Caesar obviously had come up with something called the Caesar cipher. His cipher shifted 4 letters, I believe, to the left. Augustus Caesar also used the Caesar cipher, but his shifted 1 to the right. And so he used secret signals, which is something that both of them were famous for, was signaling. And for me, I believe the August puzzle is about signaling when you think about the communications between a pitcher and a catcher.
Huh.
And in fact, when you think about the Japanese clue, do you remember what the Japanese clue was for August?
Yeah, he couldn't give you a clue or it would give it all away.
I think it was
right.
Baseball. Yeah.
No, it was just
but his clue was.
No, I'm joking.
Go ahead and say it, George. What's his clue?
I can't give you a clue or I would give it all away. If I gave you one clue, it would give it all away, something like that.
Which basically works for a secret signal.
Yeah,
Does it?
That if the batter understood the signal. Actually, I'm going to look the actual words up for it because I think I have it on here.
All right, I'm reading. I think people are confused, sir, about what puzzle you're talking about exactly.
All of them.
So I was going to the 3. I was going to the 3 solved ones.
Okay.
So I started with March, then I went to May, and now I'm in August.
Right, 12 here. Yeah.
So August, he said, for the third poem, a hint could lead to an immediate answer. So he didn't give me one. Too bad. And if you think about an immediate answer, to me, I think that could relate to if the batter understood the signal between a pitcher and a catcher, it'd result in an immediate answer.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree. Yeah. And, well, I mean.
Well, so what I'm trying to show is that I think there's a pattern between some of these puzzles in terms of how, number one, how you make a connection between looking for a dig location that links in from the location and the time. And actually, let me go back because I kind of skipped over some stuff on here. In the puzzle, the very beginning.
Did you add these colors to the presentation, by the way?
No, my book came like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I added them.
Is that George?
What?
Let's see.
I didn't do it.
I was joking, George.
No,
I
George.
was joking.
All these in lime green.
Oh no, that's me. I was trying to keep track of my pages as I was going through because I jump between sections.
Listen, I think you should put it on 12 treasures for everybody to ruminate on.
Yeah, I will, but I'll be honest. I think a lot of folks, they see some of my stuff and they get very scared right away by the
some people don't
the depth of it.
My students don't show their work sometimes, and I'm like, how did you get that? I know you got the right answer, but how did you get the right answer? You know?
Yeah, I'm looking for. So I can't find it here. Let me actually pull up on my book here because there was a specific set of words that I honed in on, and it's at the very end of the vanishing.
Yeah.
And it says,
you know what yeah.
It says, in our land.
Oh.
What's that?
The Montreal painting. What do you think about that?
We're going to do the vanishing part first.
All right. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay. So real quick, the last page 32, it says, in our land and in our time, the fair people and their treasures yet wait to be discovered. And I think that line is talking about land and time as in origins and time as in the month and the hours. And so I think that line is saying, and obviously some of that's like we take for granted and say, yeah, of course, the land and the time are things that are important to solving the puzzles. But I think the actual locations can be connected to both the origins as well as the times that are associated with each of the puzzles.
Wow.
Now, I don't know, George, if I've kind of, and again, I know at the very beginning you said, you know, some of this wordplay stuff is really stretchy, but I wouldn't mind going a little further on this, but I know, Randy, you had a question about Montreal.
Wow.
Huh?
Go ahead, George.
I have no, I don't want to be discouraging because it does seem very stretchy, but it's like it seems odd because some of these things are very interesting, and then some of them are just like, I know you're just looking to find a connection here. So I don't want to be discouraging because like some of this is very interesting, but I think what you're getting lost in is the parts where like you find one interesting thing and then you have to force 11 others to make it a pattern. Do you see does that make sense?
Yes.
Well, for me, they connect together, and I'll be honest, I've certainly run down a lot of rabbit holes and thrown some things out that I don't like.
Yeah.
But then there's things that make a lot of sense as I read them, and I hold on to that. And yeah, you're right. I will hold on to it and see if I can make it fit in there, if it makes sense. But
yeah,
I'm trying to focus in on today on things that I think are the things that make the most sense to hold on to, and I'm trying to find another one here to kind of give an example of where
I think you're looking for a dig spot, right? Like you're not telling us exactly, oh, here's the dig spot, and without that, you're kind of clueless, right? Not really, because what I think you've shared with us between so many different connections and how to change your perspective on how to view the secret.
Well, to me, like whenever I hear things like this, like these ideas, and I think what, because I always have this confused look on my face because I try my best to, I know where you're starting. When you go through an idea like this, I know where you're starting and I know where you end up, right? Like take the March for Cleveland thing. I know where you want to go, right? And I know where you have to start. So in my mind, when people go through ideas like this, what I do is mentally take away where you end up. Like I don't already know it, you know? And I follow your line of thought and see if it logically ends up where you want it to. in sort of the same, not, I don't know the correct word, the same sort of stretchiness as the rest of the book, right? And the same, follows the same sort of logic process as the rest of the book. And then that's when I get confused, because we end up like when we're like, walking in a column is a march. Well, it's kind of not. Walking in a line is a march. Like, columns are vertical things, lines are horizontal things, and you don't walk vertically. You know,
George,
like,
I'm in the military. I'll disagree with you there. Oh wait, you can't see my sign, but I disagree.
like to normal people, you march in a line, you know, not a column. I don't think Byron was in the military. I didn't know you guys walk in columns. Do you walk in columns?
No, Byron was a
column left, column right.
Oh, okay. I was not aware of that. I'm sorry. But like, that's what I try to do, is I try to take away the end, right? Like, I know where you're trying to go, to see if it logically flows that way. And, you know, some of this does, and some of it kind of doesn't.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I'm just waiting to see how it all sort of ties together.
Yeah. So go ahead.
No, just like, I think like, your presentation is amazing. Like, you get,
it's really good.
Like, you get an A+ in this school of like hypothesis about the secret. And I think it's a lot to consider. I think you're right about this rhyming structure. Maybe there is more to it.
Brandon, have we talked before? Your voice is very familiar.
No, probably not. I doubt it.
Okay.
I sound like Howard Stern. Yeah. No. Do I? I don't know. All right. No, I don't go online much.
Oh, okay. All right.
So the only reason why I was on Facebook was to keep track of the secret stuff, you know,
Yeah.
which is sad because I don't want to be on Facebook at all, but I miss being part of the secret talk, you know.
Yeah.
I know bored, but it's like not the same thing. But I miss you all and I love you all. And but anyway, I think like the stuff that you're saying about the rhyming scheme and paying attention to the litany and the first part of the book and the artistry therein.
I mean,
Is,
to me,
yeah.
Brandon, if you pay attention to the litany, like just the words, like you read the words of the litany, don't like dive deep into the meaning of letters. You just read the message of the front of the book. By the time you get to the poem and the painting, you have 90% of the information you need to correctly match up at least the paintings to cities.
Yeah, but all right, I love you, George, but I'm gonna challenge. Oh, someone's shooting a shotgun in my backyard, but I'm gonna challenge you for a second, if that's okay. So, feel at home.
What about it?
That is a precise measurement of where you're supposed to dig, basically.
It's just like you're just supposed to dig at home plate.
Right. So, not like a shotgun. It's not like this stuff is completely random. It can't be, right?
No.
Okay.
No. But I mean, like at the end of 10 by 13 is your clue, fence and fixture. That would be a shotgun. Just probably, and it's probably not. You know, the Chicago verse is probably, at least in Byron's mind, pretty exact. We just can't get into Byron's mind, you know, because Cleveland was very exact, except it was reversed, and Boston was very exact. Chicago's the only one where it's like we're digging in a whole field because we have no clue.
Right.
But yeah, I still maintain in the litany, and I think that's one of the reasons that the older hunters, it took them so damn long to agree on anything, because they ignored all that shit and the back of the book. Like, they ignored everything except the puzzle, except the paintings and the verses. Where if they had just went through the front of the book and just sat down and read it, like, they would have 90% of the information that they need to at least figure out the cities.
So George, something I want to pull up here is we were talking about the wordplay in the months. When I was looking at kind of how these all lay out there, one of the ones that jumped out at me but didn't immediately jump out at me as why it might be important was the word burr, B-I-R-R. So one of the nice things I had up there, archive.org. I know you got your one of the versions of the Secret up there. I love that. I'm glad you shared that on there. There are a lot of
for legal reasons, I did not do that.
Well, I love whoever put that up there.
Yeah, whoever made that was awesome.
They did a great job. But I use the one that's by Kelly, because it's funny. It's not listed under Byron Price. It's listed under Kelly's
Sean
name
Kelly.
Sean Kelly. Yeah. But you can do word searches, and I had searched the dictionary, the 1976 version, for the word whirring, and I found the word burr, B-E-R or B-I-R-R. And if you look at September, October, November, December, they all end in the word or sound burr. So burr means a whirring noise. It also means a sound of as a running down of a clock. And I find interesting that you find that phrase right next to December, which has got the clock on it that's coming up at midnight. And frankly, I think there are clues in all of those verses that play at different hints towards the word burr, whether that be B-I-R-R, B-U-R-R, which is more like a sharp metal object.
A word.
Burr,
yeah,
could be cold. And so I think there's some plays that are in there regarding that. Kind of like I was talking about how July and August are related to the Caesars. There's actually a really interesting backstory, like on the Caesars. I'm not a history person really. I'm not a literature person, but apparently the word Caesarian comes from the same root as the name Caesar, which means to cut.
Yes.
And actually, funny, Julius Caesar, his only kid that he had was with Cleopatra. His name was Caesarion, which also means Little Caesar. So he opened a pizza place, I guess. And then Augustus, his original name was Octavius. He switched his name to Augustus. But it's kind of funny that it's Octavius and well, I guess that's where, because it was actually that used to be the 6th month, so it was Sextilis, I think, before. So again, July and August, they used to have different names. It was Sextilis, I think, was the original of August, but
right.
But those two, I think that cutting and coded messages may play into July and August. I also find it interesting. So September, the word burr means cold, obviously, if you're shivering. And August could be broken down as a gust.
Yeah.
So a gust of wind, and then it ends in this cold temperature. And when you're in the July verse, it says, fortress north, cold as glass.
Right.
So you have these cold months following it, and glass is something that's sharp and cuts. So I think that could be something that plays at where that verse falls within respect to the clocks.
Yeah.
If you go to the other ones, I already hit on March being to march and move, May being to grant. April comes from the word meaning to open.
Right.
So I think there could be something that connects April with an opening. And then January and February comes from Janus, the god of gates and division.
Yeah, looking
backward. Yeah, looking back like at the previous year, or looking forward ahead to the new year.
Very.
And then February has to deal with purifying. It used to be part of an old purification festival. And what's actually really interesting is the fact that Lake Park has a historical water purification plant like right next to it, which I find interesting, but I don't necessarily connect it to the puzzle, at least in my theory.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. Somebody asked me a question I wanted to answer. They asked how I
Yeah,
could
go for it.
if I could explain what I meant by the front of the book helps you connect the
Yeah.
paintings with verses. I didn't say that. I said that it helps you find cities. And in that, like the front of the book, like pretty blatantly talks about the founding of Montreal and the founding of Manhattan and the founding of St. Augustine and the founding of and then it talks about Indian tribes that are native to the only really native to the areas where we're looking in. It talks about some others too, but like you start to notice a pattern where it very much talks about the founding and the history and stuff around the cities we're looking in. So if you were to go through the front of the book knowing nothing about this book and notice it starts talking about, I don't know, 15 or 20 different cities, because it gives a bunch of them. You've got a list to work from with the rest of the book, and it's pretty easy to narrow down from there. Like my thought with new hunters is always go in with either go in knowing everything, like read and research everything that's already been posted, which is difficult now, or go in knowing nothing at all and just read the book.
Yeah.
You know, don't get online. Don't even listen to people who are just like, just look at the paintings and the verses. Don't listen to people who say there's nothing in the back of the book. Just read it. And once you read it, like you get so much information before you even get to the paintings and the verses that's super helpful. I mean, like the front of the book calls out the Fountain of Youth by name. It calls out the Timucuan Indians by name. Those like it's things that only exist right where you should be looking.
Funny,
you know?
George.
Huh?
Oh, George, it's so funny. Because I think like a year or two ago, I was like, one of my students has figured out the St. Augustine puzzle. After I showed him, I did a presentation on it for a couple of days or whatever. And she was like, it's Fort Mose in St. Augustine.
Yeah.
Which is on 101 or what? It's like, it's right off.
Yeah, on US 1.
Yeah, but what's the name of the street?
God.
No, but it's the name of the guy that's on
Pedro Menendez Avenue.
Is it Menendez?
Sorry, San Marco. I think it's on San Marco.
No, not San Marco. It's the guy that Fountain of Youth, whatever his name.
Oh God, Jesus.
Yeah,
Ponce de Leon.
Ponce de Leon. It's off of Ponce de Leon Avenue, whatever, right? And there's this place called Fort Mose, which was the first free slave colony in the United States.
Yeah.
And if you look at the statues there, they look pretty similar to what we look in the image. And I think it might be, you've always said that wasn't there it
wasn't there in the 80s. We didn't necessarily.
It was there in the.
We didn't necessarily know where it was. Like, and there definitely wasn't a park, and we didn't necessarily, like, we had a general vague idea of where Fort Mose was, but we didn't know exactly.
But it existed.
Fort Mose was a thing. Yeah, we just didn't really know where it was.
Okay, fair enough. All right.
But George, I think regarding the city, you talked about this plenty of times. To me, it's very obvious that some of these are very clearly identified with their lat longs in the paintings.
Mm-hmm.
Some more so than others. I think at least 6 of them, it's got very clear lat longs in there. I think obviously Milwaukee is the only one that doesn't appear to have one in there. I think the ones in St. Augustine and Montreal and New York are probably a little bit more difficult to interpret in my mind, but I think there's enough other features that are on there that give you that's the locations that are on there. And going back to in our land and in our time, I think once you know the city, I think you can also take into account city nicknames and the local newspapers that go there. Mm-hmm. And as I've kind of stepped through some of my theories, I've seen where I think there's connections that tie into those nicknames and those newspapers.
Well, definitely the Globe.
Boston Globe, yeah.
Right.
Well, so the plain dealer,
That
do you know what a plain
disappointment for me. It was like that was so awesome.
Cleveland plain dealer?
Huh?
Do you know what plain dealer means?
No. I'd assume it's just a
A
generic
plain
dealer.
dealer means straightforward.
Okay.
All right, yeah.
So if the theme of the puzzle is marching,
Okay,
does
but
straightforward not fit that?
all right. That's not really the same as Boston Globe. There's a globe though.
Yeah,
You
it's
know?
like globe with a B.
Boston. It's Boston. Yeah.
There's like a B with a big globe.
Or, marching, plain dealer, straightforward. That it's not like
I always intuitively knew that was Boston. You know what I mean?
well, I
Like,
don't think there's been very little argument about that being Boston. Only
well,
really in
No.
or he said it was because the Constitution. I think the USS Constitution is the big one that we all should be looking at because that's the outline of her hair in the painting, right?
yeah. Well, so the
All
wharfs,
the letters are here to see.
that was the dress.
No, but it was the hair too. It was like the USS Constitution was the hair.
Okay.
That I mean,
I don't
according
remember
to
that.
JP.
I don't remember that. I remember the porthole. The porthole from the Constitution. All the letters are here to
Well,
see.
the flags.
The flag,
semaphore flags.
USS Constitutions are the letters,
Mm-hmm. They're
right?
They're on her sleeve.
Right, and the USS Constitution is her hair, like at the top of like how it goes down like that.
Thought he
Uh,
said the hair was supposed to be reminiscent of a baseball diamond
oh,
or a
that too.
baseball field.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, it's such a tough puzzle. Ugh.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard.
So Tribune for Chicago. The word Tribune comes from tribe.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I had a connection on this one, but
Trivium. Yeah.
somehow I think I connected this to clans and connections because of you having the two different clans for. In fact, it might be easier for me to pull up the chart I built for Chicago.
But it's like, how
Yeah.
many of these things do you need? How many until we say, okay, it's enough? Because like
Yeah.
in Chicago, you got the water tower, you got the Chicago Bulls, you've got all this stuff. And basically what you're telling us is like, oh no, I mean there's a stretchier way to get more of it. But it's all giving you the same information.
The Taurus sign means bulls. Like what? The Chicago Bulls sucked in '82.
Well, I mean, the Chicago Bulls were still pretty. I mean, they were a
Why would you have
big
a
team.
Taurus? I don't know. Anyway, go ahead.
Hey man, don't ask me, ask John.
Nah.
So one thing I found interesting about the Chicago site is, and this is something that I don't know how obvious it was, but the Grant Park used to be an old marshy area. And it actually was filled in as a landfill from when they dug out the Underground Railroads through Chicago, as well as some of the Great Fire in Chicago. I guess they used some of that in the landfill there as well. But the dig spot for where they buried the cask, or where Byron buried the cask, is actually in the first area that was built up in Grant Park.
Really?
Which, yeah, and I found that kind of interesting. So I try to remember where the source was. I found this on there, but the other thing is right adjacent to it. There's this switching yard where all these rails came in, and then they would go back in here. And I'm assuming this area was where they kind of would park and stage trains before they come out here and go through their switching before they got shipped out. I don't know, George, you've been to Chicago.
Yeah, it's a switching. It's switching and storage.
Right. So it's an area where trains would be decoupled and coupled in, right?
Yeah. As far as I know.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not a train guy, but that's what it looks like when you're there.
Right.
Right. So So if you look at this puzzle, this is the only one that has two different countries that he connected together, right? Ireland and Scotland. Ireland, for me, again, I'm a stretchy person. I could see a play on words for Hireland because they put fill material into this area because that's how Grant Park was built. Scotland, this one's definitely more stretchier, but Scotland as in Gotland, because the city was granted this land from the railroad as part of the deal when they gave them this park. The combined together, he refers to this as Celtic, sounding like the word sell, and a grant is something that's like a sale, except there's no real compensation that's given when it's done. When you think of a Celtic knot, it stands for the interconnection of connecting things together, being bound. As I read through, May meaning to grant something, Memorial Day, remembering those who gave their all. Maya is what May was named after, is the goddess of fertility. She's the giver of life. I read all these things as being something that you are connecting things together, that you are linking things together. If you think about the fence post itself, it's not a chain link fence that's out there. It's actually one of those panel fences. So you've got a fence post which holds two things together. And that's basically what you have with Scotland and Ireland, is two things that are being held together or tied together. If you go off into the rail yard, where you have trains that are being decoupled and coupled together, they're being linked in. And of course, we have President Lincoln there as well. So for me, I hear wordplay kind of going through this whole thing. Even the leprechauns, they're known for granting their wishes. Do you see kind of where I'm going with the idea of...
I see where you're going. And I think listening to this, I finally figured out how to verbalize my frustration with some of these things. Like, because it's difficult for me on one hand, because I'm like, I really like the way you're thinking about this. And like, I don't want to discourage that way of thinking, because it's awesome. And it's like this, not this specific, but like this style of thinking is the only way we're going to get new information about this puzzle, right? Thinking about it the same old way is just going to run us around in loops. But I've always been frustrated. I've never been able to illustrate why. And I think I figured it out. Everything that you've said during this whole stream has been interesting, especially in the way you're thinking about how words work and how ideas work together. But it brings nothing new. It tells me absolutely nothing that I didn't already know. It doesn't give me any information that the puzzle didn't give me in another very much more straightforward way. And I think when I go into... You're doing what? You disagree. You disagree, but there's been nothing that you've said where I've been like, holy shit, that's new. Like it's all a way of saying, like, just like when you were talking about the switching and the Lincoln, it's like, we're already there. Like, this didn't help us at all. We're already there. And the only way we can make this connection is if we're sitting looking at this stuff, or the marching and the columns. Like, the only way we make this connection is if we already know what we're looking for. What I want is something like, I dream, and every time I go into this conversation with somebody, I dream that they're going to give me a piece of information that fills in a gap instead of solidifies something we already know. Right. And everything that's been said today, just sort of like, okay, but we already knew that.
But what I'm trying to show you, George, is I think there are things that are in the puzzles we've already solved that may have been missed. And
but they weren't missed.
Things are and seeing.
But they weren't missed. That's my point.
Let me ask you this: what is the hook on his hat doing and the earring doing?
I don't know. You tell me.
So they're both pulling. We have a pole that's going up and we have a pole that's going down. Okay. So I believe that the whole adding in and disconnecting, linking in, is tied to an idea of poles, polarity, plus and minus. And I know people talk about math. I'm not into trying to add a bunch of things up and that being a math theory. I think there's actually a physical key that are in these puzzles, and it uses mathematical terms. And I think the Chicago puzzle, its mathematical terms is plus and minus. If you look in the window,
interesting.
The window has a plus and a minus symbol, and I know I probably could go in other drawings and probably find something else that's similar to having a plus and a minus, but I don't know if there's any that are as clear as what you would see in here. In fact, you see it a couple of different places. And I'm happy to go through. You have
just
to
get to the point. Like, what does that mean? You're like, okay, it's linking, it's plussing and minuses. What does that bring? Just skip all of the, I can link it to other puzzles. I can do, tell me what that means. What blank does that fill in?
Let's go.
This is what I get to.
Okay.
So I get to the poem that's on the front of the book, or at the front of the treasure, the one that has a key on it, a literal key, I think is actually a key poem. I think it goes through and it tells you how you connect each verse to a painting by finding a key that's within this poem.
Interesting.
The way I do it is I've gone through and read these lines, and it's taken me time. I'll be honest, my whole math theory has evolved over time. And as I've read into these further and further, there's things that have jumped out at me. So if you look at, again, I have this verse, which precedes the paintings. I link them up into pairs or a single sentence that connects to a painting in order by the paintings.
Wow.
So when you get to with their challenge and a pact, a challenge is something that goes against, and a pact is something that comes together.
Yeah.
So that is where I get my plus and my minus for painting 5.
Very cool.
If you look at where 3 and 9 lie, they lie on a parallel or a perpendicular on a clock.
Wait. Stop, please. I get the overarching idea, right? Like I get that you have one. What I am specifically asking you is we have worked our way up to plus and minus in Chicago. What specifically, what blank that we didn't already know does that fill in?
It doesn't fill a blank in, think of it like a mathematical equation. So you've got X's and Y's, and you've got you have constants, numbers that are things that can fit and work in other puzzles. This may give you the X and Y for Chicago, but it also helps you to find constants that you're looking for in the different puzzles. So for me, let's take a look at Chicago first. It's opposite, so it's in the 5 o'clock position. Its opposite is what? 11. So no, New York, right?
Okay.
If you know anything about sinusoidal waves, New York, you can see the waves in there, correct?
It has waves in the painting, yeah.
Right. So a wave is something that a sinusoidal wave is something that bounces between typically a positive and a negative threshold.
Okay.
Typically, if you're looking at most signals, you're looking at it bounce between 1 and -1, right? So it's got very much a similarity to the idea of polarity that we see in the Chicago puzzle. And what I'm trying to show is I think there are similarities between these opposing puzzles that are on a clock when we put them in their positions. If you look at a wavelength is actually the letter V is new, and we have New York.
Interesting. Okay, well, I don't know. Yeah.
But how does it help?
How does it help?
Well, yeah, that's what I'm asking. You've given me now. We've went from Chicago and we're done. Where apparently plus and minus is just a hint towards opposite of New York, which is sign and new, and now we have New York. We already had that. Like it's this is complicated, super complicated.
Complicated.
I was gonna say stupid complicated, but I that might be misinterpreted.
I did see
It's super complicated, not stupid complicated. It's
super
super complicated.
Okay,
but if it's super complicated, it should give you, like, if it takes that much work to get, it should give you something that is mind blowing. Right? Like if John's idea of complex is it says Boston right here, you know? And but then you have this whole other way of thought that's this complex that takes a wheel where you have to compare like different parts of, like, it should give you something that's mind blowing.
Crazy.
So what I'm asking is, all this work that we've put in, this huge amount of work, this however many slides of a PowerPoint with complex technical math, what mind-blowing thing, does it fill in any blanks? Any blanks at all? In any question? Do we have a question? Is there a lingering question that any of this answers?
Right.
So what I've been trying to show here is that using wordplay with the land and with the time, and apologies, probably jumping into the math was a little bit more.
No, and it's fine. And don't think I'm not trying to be like aggressively.
No.
And it could be that I'm retarded. That could also be it, because I'm not good at math. Like when you get into super complex, that's why I'm the keep it simple guy. Because when you get into super complex things, I'm like, make it spell Boston again. I understand that. So please don't think I'm like, I'm not trying to be like, I know I come off as aggressive. I'm not trying to attack or anything. I'm just like, I just really like, I see these ideas so often, and I hope and dream that there's going to be something that just explodes this painting wide open. And then it ends up being like, okay, this is creative, but it doesn't help.
So here's the thing, George. I don't think I'm going to show you anything new out of what I'm interpreting for the solved puzzles, because we already know the answers for those. What I'm trying to show is there's a pattern you can use for those 3 solved puzzles that can be repeated in the other 9. So we talked Grant real quick. Let's jump over. Let's talk March. So March already talked the steps and columns. We've got, this is 3, which is also called a quarter after. Which after soldiers march, you give them quarters. That was actually something that was part of the whole Constitution, right? They weren't supposed to force quarters of soldiers. You have Greece as a flight of steps. Cleveland. So I just talking about the macro part of the land. So Cleveland, if you break it up, is cleaved land, a separated land. So people march off to war when the lands are split, right? And what is the Greek cultural gardens? It's a bunch of different lands. And what was it divided by? Liberty. So the land split literally by liberty in Cleveland.
Well, no, okay, yeah, I get what you're saying.
Right. The Chicago one was a little bit harder for me. The best I can come up with is Chicago, because Chicago was parked, but I don't know if I really like that one. It's just the best I came up with. For August, so August, the name August comes from augur, which is people who used birds to be able to predict the future. So they saw signs looking at birds. And in the painting, we literally have a bird on there. And we've got a catcher and a pitcher that trade signs in order to communicate. The number, the best I came up with was that maybe the strike zone on a batter. I'm not really happy with that one, but the home base, so the name Italy, if you break Italy in half, you have Itali. The word tally is actually a baseball term, which is if you go across all 4 bases, you score a point, it is called a tally. So literally, home plate is Itali.
Okay.
So what I'm trying to show here is I think that, in my mind, I think that there are word plays that tie the time and the land to the dig spot. And if you start going into the other puzzles, now we talked at the very beginning about straightforward and complex paths, right? So when I talk about my theories on the other 9, they're all places that people have gotten to without a complex solution.
Yeah.
So Elizabethan Gardens, Lake Park, so Charleston, I'm in Washington Square, Union Square, the Atropos Key, I don't know if I'm saying that right, in Herman Park.
Mm-hmm.
The Anchor, Laura Reiner's grandfather's Anchor in St. Augustine, Dominion Square, this William Stewart statue at Madison Square Park, and the summer corner of the Jackson Square. So all of those have come up as theories using simplistic type logic, right? I think people have talked about those locations, and they've gotten there by finding straightforward connections, such as things they see in the image or things that make sense from the verse, right? You've heard of those 9 come up at some point.
Yeah.
You think?
Yeah.
Okay. But now consider the fact, let's talk like the Houston one, for example. So the Atropos statue, it literally has a diamond-shaped eye. It has a jewel eye. It is a being that has sun rays coming off of it, so it's a ray being or Arabian. Okay. What was the other one that's on here? I'm trying to remember what. So 7. So the month Caesar means to cut. So Atropos, the Atropos key represents Atropos, who is part of the 3
Caesar,
part of the 3 fates.
Wait, did you just say the month Caesar? You just say the word Caesar means to cut?
Sorry, not month of Caesar. So July is Julius Caesar, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
did you say Caesar means to cut? Does it?
Yes.
Does it really? Just because of the stabbiness? Is that?
No, Caesarean.
Okay. I got you now. I got you. Okay, never mind.
So they both come from the same name, and the story is supposedly Julius Caesar was born via Caesarean section, but there's no real history to show that's proof. But yeah, they both come from the same root, which means to cut. But yeah, kind of funny, the whole stabbiness, right?
Yeah. All right, I didn't know that. I'm sorry. Thank you.
So you have Atropos, which is of the 3 fates, that's death, right? And so death is represented by Atropos with her knife or her scissors that she uses to cut the thread of life. So let me go ahead and pull this one up. So if you go and you look at the picture, and I guess this wasn't probably the best one. The picture, you've got the genie up there, and you've got him spinning and twisting or whatever. Well, if you think about the story of the 3 fates, the very first of the fates is called Clotho, the spinner.
Right.
And right next to the ticket booth of the Miller Theater is Oliver Twist. So for something that twists would be the same as something that spins. Uh-huh. So if you think about the middle one, Laches, who is the allotter, the one who weaves out the destiny and plays out life, you have a literal theater playing out life in between where the spinner and Atropos key is. Okay. Now, I know everyone looks at the painting and they see railroad tracks on there and they tie it to the 982 train. Right. I think it's actually stitches. Okay. I think it's something showing sewing, and that what you're actually seeing below the gin is cotton being spun. In fact, a cotton gin is something that spins cotton. Ooh. And you then have the arms crossed, which would be weaving. And then up top, you have the finished material, which is cotton. Huh. Interesting. Now, where the Atropos key actually was before they did the renovation, if you look in the bottom right-hand picture, and it's kind of fuzzy on here, but it's best I got out of Google Earth, it's actually in a eyelet, if you will, of the path. The path went up around on the top and the bottom, and an eye is something that you would see in a needle.
Mm-hmm.
Also tying this to sewing. The other part of this one, since I have it up, it says perspective should not be lost in the middle of four alike. If you look at a clock with the words spelled out, the words 5, 6, 8, and 9 are the only ones that have eyes. And if we're not losing perspective, we need eyes. And it's in the middle of four alike is where you find 7.
Okay. Wow.
Now, I also have like a bunch of other keywords that stood out to me. For example, on this one, on some of these pictures on here, you can see this is a comparison of the World Book of cotton plants and what the tree leaves look like there. And I talked already about the burrs, the cold north. But again, all of this derived from me thinking more about wordplay and wordplay starting with the land, July, or the land of Araby and Arabian. Thinking about Caesar, things that cut. All of these things are what led me down this path, and I think helped them confirm me into it. Now, for this one, I got into this being a set and a series because you have Atropos key looking like a sunset. In fact, in the painting itself, it looks like there's a sunset going on. You have a theater which has a set on it, and there's a series, if you will, between going from Oliver Twist up to the Atropos key. The other thing on here, I'm trying to think, there was more with the whole Julius Caesar and Cleopatra.
No, I like that.
So the other thing, if you think about Julius Caesar, there's the famous plays of Julius Caesar, Caesar and Cleopatra by George Bernard Shaw,
right,
and Antony and Cleopatra. So you've got a whole bunch of different Caesar-related plays that are connected to.
What do you think about the fact that, I mean, what city do you associate this with?
This is Houston. So if you look at the painting itself, you have literally carved stone, which to me is a rebus for hewn stone or Houston.
I have a problem. Houston, I do have a problem.
Okay.
All right. And number one is that Houston has a lot to do with NASA, right?
Yeah.
And the rocket ship that took off in the middle of that century. You know what I mean? So the fact that it looks like a rocket ship taking off, kind of.
Am I not wrong that all rockets take off from Cape Canaveral? I don't think rockets.
They really?
No.
Yeah. No rockets.
They also took off from Vandenberg.
And where?
Vandenberg. So Cape Canaveral launched all of our elliptical orbits, and Vandenberg launched polar orbits.
Oh, okay.
I was stationed there.
All right, that's something new.
Be out there when we launch rockets.
No, but
I have two things. One that's not for either of you guys, but there's a lot of people in the comments that were complaining about ads on YouTube. I don't have a whole lot of control about that. I might be the point where I can turn them off now. I will try. I will say that there's a membership thing you can sign up for. It's like 99 cents a month or something, and that turns off ads. But the second thing,
that's what I ran. I ran into that too, George. I had the YouTube, and you either have to watch the ads on YouTube or you watch it on Facebook with lower quality.
Yeah.
So those are your options, or pay for it, like you said.
I'll see. I think I make like 30 cents on everybody getting annoyed with ads. So I'll see if I can turn it off.
Well,
that went back to your millions that you make off the secret, George.
Oh God, so many millions. I have a good question for you both, because we only have like 15 minutes. But it's a question that I think both of you can answer. It's a question that really, really needs to be answered. We have a lot of out of the box thinking in the secret groups, right? And we have a lot of out of the box thinkers who are afraid to post because they immediately get shut down.
Yeah.
And I think people attack not attack, but they disagree so strongly that it prevents people from just posting these sort of out of the box ideas. When when in reality, out of the box ideas are good things to have.
Mhm.
How do you both think that we can both support out of the box thinking while also, actively discussing them? Because in order to discuss these things, you have to talk about its faults and its positives. You can't just ignore the faults. So you kind of do have to attack the I don't know, the stretchiness or the downsides or whatever of the idea. But how do we do that in a way that can also encourage people like, this may be wrong, but don't stop?
Right.
Like
No.
follow your rabbit hole. This one probably just didn't lead anywhere. Does that make sense? How do we
Yeah.
do that?
Yeah.
Go ahead. You go.
No, 100%. Go ahead. Go ahead, Brandon.
No, you go first. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I ran into that exact same thing. So, like I said earlier, I went through the various stages of The Secret where I think very early on, I had some of my ideas were ideas that had already been talked about. And so they really weren't new ideas. And then some of my ideas were maybe new, but not very well thought out. And I shared some of those. And honestly, when I first started, I didn't want to share anything. I wanted these all for myself, right? But over time, I kind of realized, well, I'm not really interested in the treasure here. I'm interested in trying to figure out how to solve the puzzles. And I'm one of those that I'm convinced that there is something that connects these puzzles together. And I'm more interested in that. But to your point about how to get fresh ideas considered, number one, you have to be willing to put it out there and accept you're going to get some criticism. For the folks, for most people that where I've posted, they'll either ignore it or they will provide back, hey, I kind of like this, or you'll get a thumbs up, but you don't really get a lot of discussion. There was only one guy, and actually you banned him, that really irritated me, but I generally would reply back to him, hey, appreciate your input. I'm done talking with you. You have to watch out for those. But I think the hard part is, George, is I think if you are putting out a simple idea, it probably gets received pretty well. And I've tried some of those where I'll kick out like, hey, I think the word scent means something for the Cleveland puzzle. But you have to keep it in a very small, tight box of why you think it's important. Because the moment that you try to say scent is tied to heads and tails, is tied to 50-50, is tied to smelling, you start losing people and they don't want to hear about it, but you may eventually be able to get to where, heads and tails may lead to ass end for ascending, or the ass end of the structure, right? Because that's the way I look at the Cleveland, the structure that's out there, that it's got a front and it's got an altar side where, we end up finding it on the altar side, right? Which altar means opposite or back end, right? But again, I think you just have to put it out there and you either catch people's attention or you don't. And if you don't, then don't let that, I don't know, don't let it persuade you not to keep posting. But I think there's also a lot of people out there who have great ideas that just don't want to share them.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But like, there's been some crazy stuff that has gotten really good discussion, like very good discussion from many people, not just like new members, not just out of the box thinking members, but traditional searchers. Like I look at Chris Woodford's like litany, where he tied the litany to basically every verse painting, tied everything together, gave it all a theme, right? It was kind of the same thing you were kind of the same thing you were doing here, but a little like simpler. It had a lot of wordplay. It had a lot of. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I'm not sure I read that
I'd
one.
have to
Was it
post
on
it.
Discord or was it on?
It was posted on his blog. It's been a couple of years. I'll try to find it
Okay.
and post it. But
I tried Discord.
Yeah.
I tried Discord, and it's just not. I don't know. I'm not able to get into some of those conversations as easily as I can. I think with Facebook, I'm older, so I'll blame it on that.
Oh, they're weird, man. Discord's weird. Reddit's weird. Like Facebook,
Dude,
it's the most difficult to deal with. But
I want to have a secret after show and on the Discord and curated by me about anything about tonight's topic, you know.
go for it.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
Who are you on Discord?
I don't know, Brandon. I don't know.
You're just Brandon on Discord?
Brandon? I don't I have no idea.
Well,
what is your username on Discord?
Brandon Young, probably. That's my real name.
Okay. Go for
Brandon
it, dude.
Young, probably.
There's a live chat channel there. You can do it.
Yeah, check it out. If anyone's there and wants to contribute, this is fantastic. What was your question, George, by the way?
Just how to encourage people, because like I think especially I think people take any sort of pushback on their ideas as pushback on them,
right?
You know, so any sort of anyone who disagrees with an idea, either the person who's disagreeing gives the poster the impression that they're insulting the intelligence of the person making the post, or the person making the post just takes it that way.
Yeah.
So what I'm curious is how we as a community can support this way of thought while also discussing its merits versus its downfalls.
I agree. Wow, beautiful. And because
I don't know that was beautiful, but
no, it really was. You know, but the thing is that I will relate it this way. Kobe Bryant, his rookie year, had 3 shots to make it and win the game for the LA Lakers, and he missed every shot. And at the end of the game, he was it appeared that he was crying with his head in his towel and with his, just hiding, basically. And what he seemed to be crying. And somebody asked him, like, Kobe, how are you feeling in that moment? He's like, feeling had nothing to do with it. It had to do with why. It had to do why I got that shot wrong, why I missed that shot, why feeling had nothing to do with it. So I think the big part of the next part of the secret is that we have to get our feelings out of it. We all want people to be heroes. We all want people to be amazing people that don't forget that they hit a puzzle or a clue here and there. You know what I mean? Perfect people, heroes, and that just doesn't exist in real life. So we have to approach this puzzle from a realistic standpoint.
I think that's a good point. Like, everybody's always like, "This is I'm going to find this and make everybody jealous and make myself famous, and I'm going to make $1 million and get on Josh Gates." But what they don't realize is, like, 5 people total found Chicago, and you know one of their names, one, and that's only because he posts. Brian and Andy, no, like, occasionally people stop Andy on the street because he was on TV. If he wasn't on TV, no one would know who he is. Well, and seriously, like, Jason Krupat, not famous. Like, this isn't going to change your life at all. And it's not just finding a casque doesn't give you the respect of the community. Like, it's, there's no sense, tie an emotion into it.
Or I try to get one of the smartest people I know whose father worked on the Apollo program in NASA and all this stuff, right? And I said, John, please just take a look at this puzzle. I mean, look at this book, just read it over real quick. He wanted nothing to do with it, you know, absolutely nothing. I'm like, John, that what a waste of talent, you know. It's like, you know, if you just so it really is for certain people. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we have 5 minutes remaining. Andrew, do you have anything?
Who?
I'm sorry. What did I just say?
You said Andrew.
Did I?
We talked earlier. Yeah. What are you yelling at me for?
I just said I said we had 5 minutes left.
Yeah.
Did you have anything? Do you have anything you want to add? You
Yeah,
tripped me out for a second. I was like, did I forget his name? What the fuck? Did my brain stop working?
Remember we talked earlier about whether I go by Andrew or Andy.
Yeah, Andy,
so
Andy,
Andrew
yeah.
means I'm getting yelled at.
Like it's Bandrew, not Andrew. Bandrew.
Hey, one thing I'll throw out there, and I apologize because this is going to go back into math, but on the Chicago puzzle, you mentioned it by or at the end of 10 by 13. Mm-hmm. So we know this one is at the 5 o'clock position. If you add up 1, 2, 3, and 4, it's 10. And right after it is 6 and 7, which is 13. So 5 is at the end of 10 and by 13.
But Byron said that refers to feet.
He actually said that?
Yeah. Yeah. And when he got now I disagree with him. So you can feel free to be like he was mistaken. Because it was
I have my I disagree sign. Okay, I'll put my I disagree sign up with
it was when Brian and Andy found Cleveland. They were going through all the Cleveland stuff, and then they went through all the Chicago stuff. There's a big post with everything Byron said, and he said that 10 by 13 referred to feet.
Huh.
I can't make that work though. Not at all. Like I've been I went to Chicago to work for 3 weeks, and it was every other day I was at Grant Park where they dug up that casque trying to figure out how to make feet work. And I couldn't come anywhere close to where they said that they dug using feet off of anything. So, but that's what he said.
Even your own feet.
Yeah.
One of the things that I find also interesting is so that's how I interpret at the end of 10 by 13 is dealing with 1, 2, 3, 4 being 10 and 6 and 7 being 13 for May. And now check this out. And the Charleston verse, it says, or May 1913. And if you look at the numbers 1 and then 2, 3, 4 adds up to 9. And then you have May, and then you have 13 again. And I honestly think that there are clues in the verses that cascade between the different puzzles. And it's interesting that in the Chicago one, the words are written out. And in the Charleston one, it's the actual numbers are spelled out as 1913. And for me, I read it as 1, 9, and 13. 1 and 9 is 10. So at the end of 10 by 13, and you find yourself with May again. And I think all that's telling you for the Charleston one is when you read that verse, I believe it kind of gives away the location of where that lies on a clock. And I'd have to go back and see how it fits into how I interpret it. But I think all of these puzzles, the verses, tell you their location on the clock by giving you clues at either the month or clues at the hour in order to match the verses to the clocks or the months.
Yes.
Okay.
But it's all relative to putting it into the clock order, in my opinion.
All right. Are you going to post this PowerPoint for people to check out?
Sure.
Because this is a lot of information, and like we didn't get to 90% of it.
Yeah,
it is. And like I said, I'd be happy to come on and talk another time. The rest of my month is tied up with travel and setting up for Halloween. But probably fun. In October, I'd be free again.
Yeah. Well, I at least, if you are willing to share it, I would at least like to read the PowerPoint. I don't think you haven't sent that to me, have you? I haven't seen
I
this
did not
before.
send you this one. So I actually was, so a lot of it's stuff that I've posted previously, but I'll be honest, as I dig through a dictionary, I find like rabbit holes that I follow into, and I'll make notes of them. I wake up in the middle of the night and I'll write down a note to say, check this out later. But I make notes of them, and then I kind of scatter them onto a slide deck and all that. But yeah, I'm happy to share this. I've shared my, I had that spreadsheet up earlier. I know I've shared that before, but I'll share this one as well. I may have to package it up a little bit because I got some stuff that's outside the margins that I gotta squeeze in.
Okay, cool. Well then, oh, it's 10 on the dot. I guess we're done, unless anyone has anything else. I haven't read a single question. Like I've read some of the questions. There was some funny stuff, but in the comments I meant. But does anybody have anything?
Did anybody call me stupid or crazy?
No, not that I saw.
Cool.
Yeah. There was a lot of like, in the beginning, especially, there was a lot of like, I don't see where this is going. You know, it was like you were taking us on a journey, but we didn't know where we were going to end up. But I think that ended. Like, I think you presented your ideas, at least, and we figured out where it was all, how it was all tying in. So that was really nice.
I think when people have access to the PowerPoint,
when they can read it,
they can actually read through the entire thesis and consider it. It's very interesting.
And then
so I'll tell you, I only try to use sources that are from the dictionary. So I've tried to use the materials of the time. So you'll see some of those on there. And I think you'll see more of the front of the book type ideas that I had, including how I think the bookend poems that we talked about earlier. I think those bookend poems have other clues in them, as does the cascade poem, and the key poem I think ties into the math. So, and that probably sounded a little bit confusing what I just said there, but I think it's spelled out better on the PowerPoint.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. Well, then we're done, and I'm gonna go to bed.
Good night, George.
Thank
you, Andy and Brandon, for coming on. It was a lot of fun. You guys are welcome anytime. Just let me know.
Love you guys.
Good night. Thank you, George.
All right, I'm gonna end the stream.